I'm just too interested in too many things, even today. Now, that's served me well in my career being a generalist, essentially. But at the same time, there is extreme value in being an expert at certain things. But at certain points in your career, it can be really, really incredibly important to advance, to change to another company, to decide that you want to explore a different skill set.
I know you have write a book about design career. I think like we have been telling a lot of like career advice, what suggestion we would give to the designer. Can you tell us what motivates you and what are the reasoning for writing this book?
Thank you. So I have to say that I share my background with Janine. She's somewhere around here, my wife and partner. We actually went to design school together. We started our agency together. And then we also worked together as collaborators, as consultants for a good part of our careers. Needless to say, we talk about design a lot. And when I went into in-house in my career path, she went into education, so she teaches design. I don't want to sound like too emotional about it, but we love the field and we want to give back to the field. We want to help other people be excited about it, navigate their careers. The one thing I say a lot is giving a career advice to people is very personal because everybody's on a different path. Yep. And so I know when I mentor like ADP lists and other places, I really like to get to know people. What path are they on? What are their interests? And I know, again, it sounds really generic, but it is true. You really need to understand what people want to do, what they want to accomplish. Yep. And so, yeah, we wrote this book because we especially wanted to just provide more insights into the day-to-day, the kind of stuff that wasn't taught to us in school. I think education's changed a bit. There's more teaching around collaboration and storytelling and some of these other kind of skills that are really important to be successful in design. But there's still so much more, even today, that people learn on the job. So a lot of the book is about those kind of things. It's very tactical, but not on the design side. You need to learn fundamentals of design. You need to learn the tools of design. It's a lot more aiming on the other side of like the soft skills, negotiating, assessing yourself in order to continue to advance.
I think like that's also part of the reason why I founded Acrodot.
Yes.
To me, it's very hard to learn the soft skill like from a book or from some classes online. I think a lot of the time I find myself learn much more just through conversation and through listening to the story from others. So I can figure out better for myself. We have a framework called What's Next. It's like putting you in a small group, talk to each other, share your story, share your perspective, so you can figure out like what is next for you. I think like to have that conversation or opportunity is like so important.
I love everything you just said. It's also the reason we interviewed lots of designers in the book at all different levels, including managers, including even a student that's still in design school, so all the way up to management levels, and even a design recruiter as well. Like you said, everybody has different stories to share, and you just have to have those conversations. One of the big challenges is everything from when do I make a change, like when do I decide to move to a different company, when do I decide to lean into a different skill, try something different. There's that very hard transition when designers are advancing to like what we call the lead level, where it's not my favorite term, I'm not really a big sports person, but that player coach role where you are not only leading a team, mentoring other designers, but also still hands-on. Those are very tricky transitions to make, and ultimately, if you have the desire to get into management, it's even trickier because you have to let go. It's this thing in social psychology called letting go, is where you have to like trust other people to do really good work, and you have to be there to support them, guide them, and you have to play lots of different roles. You have to be a therapist. You have to be a negotiator with upper management, leadership. You have to manage in all different directions. So, there's some stories like that and a lot of tips around those kind of transitions.
I'm very curious. How do you manage like that feedback loop and figuring out what's your path to level up?
So maybe I'll talk about two different things. There's like the more really tangible feedback, like design critiques, for example. So the thing that I tell a lot of people, and again, this isn't super uncommon, is that you have to be very deliberate about asking what kind of feedback you're looking for at every single juncture when you're presenting your work, when you're sharing your work, whether it's informal or formal. The consider, try, do is a framework that I'm a big fan of because it helps people classify the type of feedback that they're giving, and it helps you clarify what to do with that feedback. When it comes to feedback from, say, upper management or leadership, it's a bit trickier. I think the only thing I can say there is that you have to admit when you're not always right. Sometimes good ideas can come from anywhere, and sometimes, in fact, if it's somebody who's not familiar with their project, those kind of questions or suggestions can actually be very provocative in a good way. It's the same thing with user research. If you can be surprised by an insight that comes out of user research, it could be like a qualitative interview or it could be a quantitative test of a feature or something like that. And all of those things, by the way, they make the best anecdotes for your portfolio and for interviewing because it shows that you're able to take lots of inputs and be flexible.
In our community, when I was chatting with a lot of members, one of the questions usually come up is how can I figure out the best fit or like the best position for me, or like how do I find my niche in the design industry? I don't know if you have any advice on that.
I saw that question, I was like, that is a really, really tough question, but only because of what I just said earlier. The fact that everybody's journey is very, very different, or has the potential to be very different. Now, you certainly can see the path that other people take, and you can model your career on others. There's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, it's such a personal decision. Like anything from, like some people have aspirations to just get to leadership. Just want to be a design leader. And that's okay. If you want to, have a startup, you have those opportunities. If you want to climb the ranks within a corporation, you have those opportunities. The speed that you do it and the way that you do it is very different. Or you may just be the kind of person that wants to specialize, for example. Maybe you do want to just lean very hard into pick a skill. It could be user research, it could be prototyping, it could be really good at visual design, it could be very technical, like maybe you're that hybrid designer developer. It's interesting because right now we're at such a crossroads where it's, first of all, just design today, like we didn't have 50 different types of definitions for what is a designer that I had when I was coming. We were just a designer. So the choices are very different now, the paths are very different now, and I would just say that you really have to understand what you want to do. And that could be, niche also can mean like what industry do you want to be in, what size company do you want to be in, besides the more tactical things, what you want to do as a designer. But I'll just kind of close with one thing, in that we're at this interesting time right now where hybrid designers are coming back, like this idea that you can do more than one thing. And I'll kind of evangelize. This has been, I kid you not, this has been one of my soapboxes for literally half my career. I've kind of like tried to nudge designers to be that hybrid designer product manager. Guess what's popping up right now? All kinds of articles and advice. Can you be a hybrid design product manager or a design-minded product manager? I say yes. It's a great fit. And I'm not going to throw shade at PMs necessarily, but product managers, most product managers came up either as engineers or as MBAs. And that's great. You need all of that work. Again, you need that EPD team to really be successful. But in a time when design feels like our responsibilities are narrowing, we need to push back on those edges a bit. And I think that's one area.
Totally agree with that. I think like I've seen so many design background PM more and more in the industry, which influence a lot in the company as well, and also in the squad. I also think like during that time, the design personality or having a philosophy is really important, because like that guides you a long way what kind of like designer you will be.
Yes, I again love this question. How do you develop that design perspective? And that's my first answer, is like you have to develop a design perspective. And it can be very personal to you. This is something, now mature designers, and I say mature as if they've been working for a while, they get this, but a lot of earlier stage designers, they really need to hear this a lot from more designers. It's, you have to pay attention to everything. You have to be that kind of person that cares about and notices signage, notices book covers and magazines and the title sequences in streaming video shows and advertisement. I know we were over there a minute ago, this water bottle has like a little name thing on it. It's like, well, a designer made that choice. you should think about like, why do they make that choice? We don't need to talk about it now. It's probably pretty obvious here. But why did these designers make these choices and all these little details that you see? Yeah. That attention to detail, feeling the weight of the new whatever phone you like, looking at how the tolerances are, like having that attention to detail is what makes you a good designer, because you then think about that in your work. You then are opinionated when you see a design product make a change. My example I'm going to give here, I really need to find a new example because it's getting outdated. But I like to ask designers a lot when Spotify changed their heart icon to the plus icon. That's very interesting. Like, what were they going for, and what's the result? The immediate result, and now the long-term result. Now that it's been a year or two, but just paying attention to web services, web apps, mobile apps, touch screens, everything. Just really, really paying attention helps you to then have that eye and then have that critical point of view on things, so that when you are developing products, you can have those points of view when you're negotiating or when you're evangelizing for something.
We have been chatting a lot, like pay attention to the details and skills, very tactical skills. What are some of the like non-design skills you think like will be really important for the designer to pay attention to?
So let me just start by saying I do not consider these non-design skills. I consider these just required skills. We talked earlier about like, giving advice to people on careers, and this falls in the camp of like, yes, this is general advice or generic advice, but it just bears repeating over and over and over, because that's how important these things are. And the two things are communication and storytelling. I know you hear that over and over and over, but there's a reason for it. Like, communication is absolutely the key to having really healthy, strong relationships with people. It's very key to getting aligned on what you're doing. It's very key to clarity of purpose. Whether you're reading a PRD or product requirements document, whether you're reading marketing content or objectives, or a company's OKRs, objectives and key results, or their mission. And then, of course, communicating the work that you do. It's really important. Obviously, very hand in hand with communication is storytelling. Like, we know, like, yes, storytelling. You hear it over and over and over. But storytelling is absolutely the key to influence. It's what gets people to listen to your point of view. It gets people to support your ideas. It gets people excited about your ideas. Those are not non-design skills, but they are design skills. They're skills that everybody needs to have, and they're really, really important for designers.
I'm curious, like, how is your journey after working in Big Corp? I know you have been spending a lot of time doing mentoring and working on the books. I feel like that's a dream come true moment to you. Can you tell us a little bit the journey after leaving the Big Corp?
I already admitted that I'm interested in too many things, right? That's why I look at my career in like 3 phases so far, and now I'm kind of entering phase 4. I don't know what that means yet, but you're right. I do mentor a lot. I really enjoy it. I feel, this is something that a lot of people say. I'm another person that's going to say it. I had a non-traditional career path, and I didn't have mentors. We just learned by doing, and that was great. So mentoring has been a way to like just give back and help other people. I feel like I've been doing it my whole career, but very informally. And a few years ago, I think it was about 5 years ago now, I was invited to be a mentor in a program by First Round Capital, a really, really great program. And that taught me so much, how to be a good mentor, even how to be a better manager at the time. I think I've now completed 10 cohorts mentoring designers and product leaders at startups. It's just really about helping people. There's a lot of just gratitude I get from being able to help people, being able to understand what career paths they're on, and just helping them navigate. Writing, it's like, this is another thing. Writing, it's like craft is one of those other words, right, that we talk about in design. We really love the idea of crafting things of quality. And writing is just another craft to geek out on for me. It literally is the origin of like the art of storytelling. And my first writing is actually fiction. So over in the wings, I have some fiction that I started writing before this book. But this book obviously took precedence, and I'm very excited to get it out there. But I do want to do some more writing as well.
You must have a lot of time to manage, right? So how do you approach right now to like project management? Do you see differences in between this and working in a corporation?
when it comes to time management, by the way, is one of the things in the book. It's like, hey, this is another skill you need to have. For me, it really started with, starting an agency and then a stretch of freelancing. So in those worlds in particular, unless you're working for a very large agency or consulting, if you're working too long, you're not making as much money. So there's this extreme value and inherent importance to be efficient, right? And if you translate over to the corporate world, if you're spinning your wheels as an individual or as a team, or if you get into what we call analysis paralysis, where you're overthinking everything, it's not good for you or your team. You get stalled out, that project's going to get canceled, or you're going to get canceled. I mean, one or the other, right? So, time management is super important. Everybody struggles with time management at different points in their career, or depending on the type of things that they do. So the only thing I say, the advice I give about time management in general is know what takes you longer to do in your process. And you just have to allocate your time to kind of offset and have that thinking time or that extra time. Some people are really good planners, and that helps. Some people are really good at just rolling up their sleeve and getting in ideation, prototyping, that kind of thing. Me personally, I'm a list maker. So I do lots of lists. I take lots of notes. It's how I internalize what I need to get done. I'm not great at it, but I do a lot of it. There's a really great book called Make Time. It's by the same authors that wrote the Design Sprint book, so they're pretty easy to find. There's hundreds of tips on how to try to optimize your time and how to try to be more efficient that I recommend to some people.
So after this book, can you share with us what's next for you?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out. As I said, I guess this is phase 4 in my whole career. One thing that's a takeaway there is your career is very long. Yes, what you're doing in the moment yes, you have to pay your bills. Yes, you have to continue to advance. You have to continue learning and grow. But just remember, a career is long. A career is not just one job. But for me, I'm still trying to figure it out. I think that writing this book and talking with people, staying active in the community, that's going to be important to me forever. What shape that takes, I'm still trying to figure out. I am doing some light advising with some companies and some organizations. But yeah, I'm enjoying the time, and it is giving me more time to talk with more people. I might do more presentations, that kind of a thing. And this is another kind of an admission to you and everyone here. I've never considered myself an artist. I've always been that person that understands the difference between art and design. But I've always respected artists. I've always just geeked out about all different types of mediums. So I'm also kind of dabbling there too. A little bit of different thinking space.
So we have a few more questions. Maybe we can do 5 rounds.
Sure.
Could you tell us a little bit about your experience working with a pop star?
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Love that question. I always have that in my bio because it's an interesting conversation point, right? I promise you, I try not to be that person that's name dropping. But it's a significant part of my career. It's a big chunk in the middle of my career that I worked for. So name drop here. It was will.i.am, who, if anybody knows or have heard the Black Eyed Peas, he is a very, very, very cool guy. He's very charismatic. He's very friendly. He's very tech interested and knowledgeable. I was fortunate to work with him a couple times. The first time was for a 4-year stretch. And although I wouldn't really call it you would term something today like a 0 to 1 product, but really it was building something up from the ground up. And it was an entire content publishing platform / social network / media player. It literally was everything. And to be honest, that is what was fun about it. I got to work with somebody very directly. I was the person he called all the time. That was fun. It was fun to be that resource, to hear him out, to chat about the creative ideas, the technical ideas, the things he wanted to accomplish. For him, it was all about creating a platform for people like him that can connect directly with his audience. His idea was kind of cut out the middle layer of other platforms. It was successful to a level. But it was a lot of fun.
That sounds very interesting. So of all the products you have worked on, which one are you most proud of?
Honestly, it's probably that one, because it was where I had the broadest influence, not only with the people that ultimately made decisions, but also because I started out with that. I was just kind of found as a literally as a contractor, back when I was freelancing, as an IC developer, it's like, hey, haven't you developed some media plays for the web before? I'm like, yes, I have. And I joined this team and just quickly had this opportunity to like jump straight to a leadership position. And that's partly because I had more experience than some people, but also because I stepped up to it. Like yeah, I want to do that. I want to be that person. And got to work on just so many different things, like not only building the platform in a traditional technology web platform development. We had 3-week developments, like sprint cycles. So working with engineers, working with designers, working with the stakeholder, really one person that ultimately cared about what we built. But also everything else about it, like working with brands who did sponsored events. We hosted concerts, we did original content. So it was getting to do a little bit of everything. I even was behind the camera on video shoots for some things, but I'm most proud of that just because I just got to do a little bit of everything.
So what was the most unexpected challenges when you co-founded your agency?
The appetite and even the industry, it's a lot more common to say that people say, designers specifically say, I'm starting an agency. And that's totally fine. If it means an agency of one, and then maybe two, maybe you have a partner, it doesn't matter. It's just the idea of starting your own thing, seeking out your own clients, having that autonomy, it's all very rewarding. The tricky part is when you want to scale. And for me, that was the most difficult part, not the idea of scaling. We were very fortunate at the time. It was the good times. There was clients. There was no shortage of clients seeking out design agencies of any scale. But the hard part for me personally was that scale, not because of the technical logistics. That's what I had to do. It was really just taking a step back from the work. It was really hard for me to not be hands-on in like every single project because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing the design work. I was coding at that time in some things. I was doing some 3D graphics. We were doing video. Again, just that hands-on part, which some people want to be ICs forever, and I completely respect that. It's a lot of fun. But when you have to flip over to that other side, it's challenging for different people. It's the same transition as I talked about earlier when you're climbing the ladder in a company. That management transition is also very hard for people that get away from the making, get away from the craft. In fact, I know a lot of people that have gone to management, have been there for years, and then have come back to IC. And this is pre-current situation. Right now, it's very common, unfortunately, for different reasons. But even before that, I knew people that just felt management wasn't for them, and that's okay too.
So how does that change your perspective in design, that experience?
I apologize for being repetitive, but again, I really think it's an individual choice. Like, what do you want to accomplish? And it can be at a very small level, and it can be very incremental as well. Like maybe making an impact means helping your team succeed. It can be those kind of typical things like really having a good fight for the user experience. But for everybody, it's very personal about what you want to accomplish as a designer. And again, I think the one good thing about the industry as a whole is this idea that in most places, there's more acceptance of the dual track, meaning you can continue to be a very successful IC or individual contributor, practitioner of design, or you can go into management and have different types of influence and accomplish different things at different scales. The good thing is, even with that wider acceptance in the industry, has come, not everywhere, but in a lot of places, particularly at larger companies, a bit of a better balance of compensation as well. In fact, the last company I worked at, just going to say it, we compensated some of our highest performing IC designers much more than managers. And that value was there in some cases. So I know I'm kind of whining here, but it's really a personal decision about what you want to do in your career. It's okay to think about it incrementally, but you also should have like at least a direction. This is like the same thing with startups, right? It's like know where you want to go next, and it's okay if you make pivots, but just try to stick with it also. I think this is something that I hear from junior designers or people starting their careers, is there has to be some grit. Grit is like that sticking with something, not just giving up quickly. It's hard work. Design is a very competitive field. It always has been, by the way. Even though I talked about the good times, it's competitive, and so you really do have to be really good. The only way you get really good is you be really committed, and you really put in the time. You don't have a shortcut mentality. You stick with your goals.
If you can pick, what is one skill you think is going to be crucial in the next 5 to 10 years?
There's no magic ball. I think I already kind of spoiled my answer here talking earlier that I'm not going to utter the phrase that I don't think we've mentioned this entire time. I'm going to leave that 2-letter word out for a second here. But, design, technology, the entire industry, everything about it has always continuously evolved.
Yeah.
And so we have to continuously evolve with it. I'm not saying go learn this or go learn that or don't do this, because half of the advice is going to be wrong always. Mm-hmm. And so I'd say one thing is that all the core skills of being a really great designer, being very creative, being a great storyteller, being a great communicator and collaborator just as a professional person that works with other people, those are never going to go out of style. So if you get really good at those and then you continue to evolve with design trends and different technologies and different, when I say interfaces, I mean ways of interfacing with information. Here's another old person moment here. A paper that I wrote as an undergrad for a sociology class was actually on distance learning and AR, VR. People, that was a long time ago. We're finally just cracking into that space now. So some things are going to pan out and some things are not going to pan out. So you can't just be completely focused in one direction. That might be good for like short-term gains of your own growth or what you want to accomplish, but always keep in mind the long term.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for coming to Ecuador community and share a lot of knowledge and insights to the design career.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.